Hello, my name's Richard. Now today we're going to be looking at how to play Abandon All Artichokes, which was designed by Emma Larkins and is produced by Game Right, who are apparently making everything 100% fresh. This game is a deck building game, and what you do in a deck building game is you start off generally with a dull and unexciting deck of cards. Now in this case everybody will start off with a hand of artichoke cards. Every player gets 10 of these, and that is your main deck. The idea of a deck building game is that as you play the game you will bring more exciting and more useful cards into your hand that will allow you to play kind of certain actions. So if we look, for instance, here is a leak, which allows us to reveal the top card of an opponent's deck and put it in my hand or on top of their discard pile. You have say like an onion, and that allows you to compost an artichoke, or compost. You say compost, I say compost. It's up to me. It's my video. Put this card on top of another player's discard pile. The idea in the game is that you are effectively trying to abandon all of your artichokes. So you're looking at trying to make sure that you, when you get to the beginning of a round, when you redraw your hand, you want to make sure that you have no artichokes left in your hand whatsoever. Gameplay is quite simple, setup is quite simple. As you can see here, we've got a row of 5 cards. This represents basically the garden row, which everybody draws from. And on the left of that, you've got the garden stack, which is where the garden row is replenished from. Further to the left of that, we've got the community compost pile. Certain card actions will mean that you have to remove cards completely out of the game, and they will end up in the compost pile. Generally, if a card tells you to put a card into a discard pile, that is your own personal discard pile that you usually keep in front of you as well. Gameplay itself is quite simple. When you begin, you're always having a hand of 5 cards, so you'll draw your 5 cards. And you'll keep your own other pile as a draw pile. You'll also have a discard pile for that as well. Then your idea is that you will, first of all, if the garden row needs to be replenished for any reason, you will take cards from the garden stack and you will replenish it. If not, if this is full, then the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to harvest one of the cards from the garden row, and you're going to put that into your hand, and then from that you can play any number of cards from your hand. So in this case I can compost an artichoke and you put this card on top of another player's discard pile. So in this case I would say, right, I'm going to get rid of one of my artichokes and I'm going to give that to the other player that's over there, and that means because it's going into their discard pile, then effectively at some point they'll be able to draw that for themselves and they'll be able to use it like all good onions should. As the game goes on, you would then fill up the garden row from the garden stack. If at any point you find that you've got more than 4 of the same, you've got the ability to mulligan the entire row and completely start again. But again, gameplay goes on. As time goes on, you'll be drawing cards into your hand. There'll be at some points that you'll be pushing cards from your hand into your discard row. If you get to the end and you've not got any cards to draw, like so, what you're going to do is you're going to take your discard pile that you've got, you're just going to shuffle that, and then you're going to draw your 5 cards for the next row. At the end of every round, you're going to completely get rid of your hand and you're going to discard that. So I'm going to discard that. I'm going to take my 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see as you play, and this is the main idea with a deck builder, is you're going to start to see less artichoke cards in your hand, and you're going to start to see more cards that you can actually do stuff with. But you're doing the same thing. I'm going to draw another card. I'm then going to see what I can play. Once I've then played it, the played cards that I'll have, unless they tell me to compost it, I'll put this in my discard pile, and then as you're playing cards you'll be putting them in your discard pile. And then the idea at the end of the game, and the way that you win the game, is you will get to a point potentially at the end of the game where you have managed to successfully get rid of all your artichokes. And so when you draw the 5 cards for your next hand, you turn them over and you'll find that you've no artichokes left in your hand on that turn, and at that point you'll be allowed to declaim that you abandon all artichokes and you win the game. I was never a big fan of vegetables growing up, to the point, well, and that was for a couple of reasons. I think the first reason was that, like a lot of people growing up in my era, money was tight. We maybe had a lot of peas and carrots, and the idea of having something like a leek or even a pepper would be pretty alien to us. So it wasn't necessarily, you ate your greens because your greens weren't very exciting, so that was kind of perpetuated. Abandon all artichokes is aiming to address that by bringing what can only be described as absolutely stunning and beautiful looking, simplistic kind of art, but not as simplistic as in not very good, simplistic as in just wonderful and incredibly fit for purpose for the game. Game itself, as you can see from the first part of the video, is actually incredibly easy to pick up and just to play. You can literally have anybody playing it very, very quickly. It's a nice little filler game. It's a nice little game that you would start off, excuse the pun, before the dessert or the main meal. And it all fits nicely in a nice little tin as well. There's no components for components' sake. I kind of like it. I had a lot of fun with it. I got utterly beaten as usual, which instantly puts it down my my never wanting to play it again kind of list. But in terms of playing it again, yeah, absolutely, it's a fun little game. There's a lot of little strategy. There's not just a case that you can see the same old cards kind of cropping up again and again. It's nice to see kind of proper interaction with players as well. Sometimes in these kind of deck building games, you're building a deck in order to kind of reach a win condition, but sometimes there's not necessarily an awful lot of interaction between players. In Abandon All Artichokes, there are cards here which will have you giving cards to other people, taking cards from people, swapping stuff. It's just, and there's a nice level of interactivity, but there's not like horrific cards which will really kind of spoil the mood. It's all very kind of light. It's all very, very friendly, and it's all rather nice, which is surprising considering it's vegetables. But there you go. Yeah. So that's Abandon All Artichokes, designed by Emma Larkins. This is We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. If you like what you've watched just now, just go down below, give us a like, because that's really, really nice. If you like it a little bit more than that, click on to the subscribe button so you can keep up with the rest of our content. But until the next time, stay safe, roll sixes, and eat your greens.